Where did you get your business to in Kingston before coming here in terms of like the scale and all that?
$1 million.
$1 million in revenue.
$1 million in revenue.
Okay. At this point, are you just like volume's good? Who cares about the numbers? Like, did you know your cost of goods? Did you know your labor expense?
Not as well as I do now. So Kingston grew way too big, way too fast.
What do you mean?
I thought, so this little thing that I thought was just going to be pop-ups for just me turned into $15,000 weeks in a 600 square foot space.
Wow.
Insane. So very quickly I went from, I'm going to do this all myself. And my brother has worked with me since day one. So it was going to be me in the kitchen, him as retail. And then when we were open, we were going to I used to do the bake in the morning, fill the cases. Once the doors open, me and him did retail. And then I would wash the dishes at night and go home. I hired retail. I hired more bakers. And we went from like a hole in the wall, nothing, to constantly selling out. And we've always run a 4-day-a-week schedule. So we've run Thursday through Sunday. So we ran $1 million in 3 years being open 4 days a week.
Wow. What were you doing right?
Consistency. I would rather not open my doors than sell product I'm not proud of. So when we sold out, we sold out. I didn't have in Kingston, freezers on freezers of product. We didn't prep more than we could sell. We didn't prep anything earlier than it would be best for. And I just refused to compromise on the quality of everything, because even if I didn't know when we were going to sell out, I couldn't guarantee the consistency of hours. I was guaranteeing the consistency of the product.
This episode made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro.
With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, chef owner of Fresh AF Bakery, Taryn Merrill. Taryn, are you feeling unstoppable today?
Absolutely unstoppable.
I am psyched to have you here. I want to give a special shout out to the folks over at Dead Proof Pizza for calling you out. They said you gotta go talk to our girl Merrill, or Taryn Merrill. Should I start over?
Call me whatever you want. It's all good. I've been called Karen.
Karen?
If it's
Oh no,
Terry.
That's like the worst name to be called.
If it's close enough.
They said you have to go talk to Taryn. She's doing amazing things. Did you start as a pop-up yourself?
Yes and no. So I have been in the industry for 15 years. So I've worked for lots of other people. And then I, like every other baker during COVID, baked banana breads and just like peddled them out of my garage apartment at the time.
Interesting.
And just decided not to go back to work for someone else.
All right. Well, we're going to definitely unpackage all
Love that.
I can't wait to find out how you got to where you are today. But let's get that motivational, inspirational, ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
Work hard and be nice to people.
Work hard and be nice to people. I think I saw that posted over the register.
It is. It is.
Go deeper into that.
It's basically all you have to do. Work hard, do a good job, be nice to people, and the rest follows.
That easy and that hard. Sometimes
that easy and that hard.
A lot of the things that we do that literally like what it amounts to is like so simple.
Yeah.
And often like the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, because how do you get there? How do you accomplish both of those things, and what's all the in between that happens to get to that point?
Working hard, not easy.
No.
Being nice to people, not always
Sometimes
the easiest.
not easy.
Not always the easiest. So where does it make sense? Like, take us back. Like, how long have you been working in the industry?
So my first industry job was when I was 14. I couldn't even drive myself to work. And I started working at a bakery washing someone's dishes.
Okay.
So literally washing somebody else's dishes just so I could sit in a stool, because I was so young, sit in a stool and watch her make wedding cakes.
Right.
Because at that time it was like the Food Network boom, and I thought there was nothing more I wanted to do than make wedding cakes for the rest of my life. I don't make wedding cakes now. So yeah, don't make wedding cakes now, but that's what I thought was like it for me, like Cake Boss, wedding cakes, Ace of Cakes. That was the thing. And then I did that for a little bit and was like, oh, okay, this is the thing for me. I knew I wanted to stay in the industry, worked all through high school, all through college, went to a culinary college, and then just kind of like bounced around doing the very traditional, like trying out a year here, a year there to see where I fit. And then eventually just ended up here.
So when, like you said, originally cakes, when did that start to change for you?
I always went back to cakes. So it happens to be the thing I'm naturally a little bit talented at. It's not the thing that I love. So I always kind of defaulted back to cakes, or I would get a job like as a morning baker and the cake person would call out for the day and I'd make a cake, and then suddenly now I'm the cake decorator.
Okay.
So I always kind of bounced back to making cakes. So it's been the default. It's been the easy thing. It's pretty consistent, but it's not the thing that I really love to do.
So when you were 14 years old, you said,
Yeah.
this is it. This is what I want to do. What
Yeah.
was it specifically about the work that you loved?
I liked the science behind baking.
Okay.
So I've always been really interested in the science behind baking.
Chemistry.
The chemistry of it. Like Alton Brown is like that's my top
He's right
tier.
here in Boston too.
I
isn't
know
he?
he is, and he's doing his last tour ever.
really?
And like, I might have to close the bakery for a couple days to go see him.
I mean,
like,
priorities.
I'm not. Yeah. So Alton Brown, and like, here's how you make a solar cooker out of a shoebox and make a marshmallow on your porch.
All right.
Like that was.
I hate to date you. What
Yeah.
year was it when you were 14 years old? How much
I
time
would
has
have
elapsed?
been. Oh God, I'm bad at math. I'm a good baker. I'm bad at math. I was in high school, so that would have been 2009.
2009.
2009.
So the past 15 years, this has been a journey
Yeah.
for you. When you were in the early years, when you said you were jumping around, getting experience, was
Yep.
there strategy? Were
No,
you just,
absolutely not.
What kind of places were you gravitating?
Honestly, I was young and I had a lot of ego,
Okay.
which is, I'm sure we'll get into that, but that's a big part of like how I built my business and what led me to come here. But I thought I was the best thing ever. So I worked a lot of places where I got humbled.
Yeah. Do you still have a little bit of an ego?
Absolutely none.
When do you think that got out of you?
Absolutely none. When I realized it's just a bakery and it's not that serious.
Okay. When did that happen for you?
When I opened my own place,
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was 2021.
2021.
So 11 years after
11
getting this dream.
years. And I think I slowly humbled myself when I went to college. Because everyone thinks they're so great when they're going to culinary school and you graduate and you're like, I'm a culinary
You've been cooking
school
for 4 years.
graduate. I have a degree in this. And then you get into a kitchen and you're like, I know nothing.
Right. What didn't you know? Like, give me the examples of the things that culinary school just can't prepare you for.
So it was, I loved my time in culinary school. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely loved it. I would go back forever if I could. But you don't learn like the flow of a kitchen and how to interact with other people. It's very much, you have your station and you have your things you're working on and you're very, you're graded and you're watched and you're maintained. But you get into a kitchen and you have to do the dance of like
Right.
all of these different people working together and different personalities and different skill sets. And they don't really give you the insight as to like how a kitchen team
Right.
works.
Sharing a small kitchen.
It's the picture
yeah.
perfect version of what a kitchen is supposed to be. You have the newest equipment, you have the best ingredients, you have brand new tools and brand new supplies and all the smartest people in the same room. And then you get into a kitchen that has an oven from like 1972 and you're like, wait, this doesn't have Bluetooth. How do I turn it on?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just getting out of the picture perfect kitchen and then going to work in real kitchens was kind of awesome.
Where'd you graduate from?
Johnson & Wales.
Johnson & Wales in Rhode Island?
In Rhode Island. Yep.
Okay.
I went to their Providence campus. I originally had signed up to do their 4-year program. I wanted to do, I wanted to do baking science and nutrition.
Okay.
And my baking degree. At the time, they didn't offer the two programs together. It was kind of odd. You had to, if you wanted to be a baking major, then you also had to double major in culinary to go to culinary nutrition. So it was a lot.
Okay.
But I graduated with my associates in pastry.
Okay. And what was the path? Like, did you have a strategy or were you just taking jobs as you went?
I knew I wanted to work in some sort of bakery, but didn't know what I wanted to do. So while I was in school, I worked for a bakery as their morning baker there. So I would go to work from 2 until 12 and then go to school from 1 until 7 at night.
Oh my gosh.
It was insane.
That's rough. So was there anything that you pulled from culinary school that makes you think like I absolutely should have done this? This was the right path. Knowing what you know now, would you?
No,
do the same thing?
I recommend it to everyone. I loved going to school. Like I loved school. I always loved being in school academically before college. And I thought that their program was fantastic. Our classes were only 9 days long.
Okay.
So like, let's say you were taking cakes class, you had 9 days. Day 4 was your midterm, day 9 was your final, and you were all set. So you got exposed to so many different things very briefly to see what you liked and what you didn't like and what, you wanted to develop. And I learned so much of the science behind baking and the why. And I think that helped me be really successful because I have a really good understanding of why you do certain things in the kitchen.
So would you say the biggest benefit of going to culinary school was the exposure to different verticals
I think so.
within
Yeah,
the envelope of
absolutely.
baking? So what was it still cakes for you at this point or did something else appeal
No.
to you?
So around college time, I decided I did not want to be a cake decorator. That was actually my least favorite class, which was so funny. I didn't love it. But I realized I loved like chocolates and sugar. and the really super sciencey, super precise aspects of that specific work. But you can't really get a job, making chocolate and sugar showpieces. They're not as common as you'd like to think.
Would that be considered confection?
Yes.
Okay.
So I really like the confection sort of things. And I just seemed to have a knack for it, which was really cool and unexpected. But I also really loved like the breakfast and the viennoiserie side of things, like the happy, feel-good cinnamon rolls and morning pastry. And that's
sugar.
Yeah, sugar. And that's when I got the morning baker job and kind of developed that a little bit.
Okay. So at what point were you saying to yourself, was it always the dream to have your own business?
No, it was never the dream. That
Okay.
was not it at all. I didn't want to have my own business. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Then?
I don't know. I think it never jumped out to me. I have no idea.
What was the dream?
I don't know. I have no idea what it was for a while. I tried out a bunch of different things. I worked at a couple hotels and I loved that. And for a minute, I thought that was it.
Why?
I like the stability of that. And also right out of school, I thought it was really fancy that I was, an executive chef with a white coat, and which couldn't be so far from how I am now, which is hilarious to me that I show up to work like in my sweatpants and my glittery Crocs. And I love this. But I think I was chasing a title for a long time. I think I was chasing that, like, I wanted to be the youngest. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to have the tallest hat in the room. I wanted to have the crispest lines on my chef's jacket. It was a lot about like presentation. I just wanted a job that sounded cool.
Why do you think that mattered to you then?
Honestly, I think in school they kind of have that old school way of thinking about being a prestigious chef. We had lots of visiting chefs. We had, as you grew through the ranks of school, even you wore a different color to symbolize on your collar to symbolize what year you were in. You had a different hat to symbolize what level you had reached. So it was all about your image and how you presented yourself and the prestige of the job. When in reality, I really liked making banana bread and sugar cookies. And it took me a minute to step back from that and be like, oh, I just like baking because I like baking.
Was there a tipping point for you where you kind of had this realization?
I don't know. I did my internship. It was really unconventional. So I had friends that were going to they were interning at Disney. They were doing internships in France. They were doing internships at all of these hotels and resorts and on cruise ships. And I did my internship at a local donut shop. And I felt really bad about that for a while because, again, I was like, well, that's not impressive. I loved that job. I loved that job so much.
Why?
I realized that I loved the regulars. I loved that I knew what, Bob was going to come in and get, and he was going to see if I had apple fritters that day and what specials I made. And I realized that I liked that people enjoyed what I baked for them.
Why do you think you liked that so much?
I didn't know I liked people that much. I didn't realize that. I think what I was missing is I had been fostering the competition for so long, and I was so concerned about being the best and having the best grades and having the best showpiece and having the best, the best presentation, that I didn't make friends along the way, and I didn't have relationships along the way because I was so focused on competition. And even going to school, so on your first day, I don't know if they still do it, but at Johnson Wales on your first day, they take everyone into this auditorium and you wear your chef whites for the first time, and you wear your hat and you're in full uniform and you sit and you go to this, they give you a speech. And I remember them saying, look to your left, look to your right. 2 of you won't be here in 4 years.
Wow.
And that was the tone they set. That was day one. And it was, this is hard. Not everyone's going to make it. Not everyone's going to do it. This is not meant for everyone. Even if you do, you'll probably fail and do something else.
So what do you think it was in that moment when you took this internship and you saw somebody see that you recognize what they want? How does it feel?
It went from doing it as a job to be the best, to get something in return, to just enjoying it. That I made a silly little donut and that made someone's day.
Right.
And I liked how that felt.
But what I'm hearing from you is that you like the science of actually baking and doing the thing and the creative side of it, but what the reward is the being able to recognize somebody and what they want.
Yes.
And to be able to deliver that and then to be seen in return for seeing them.
I think so. Yeah.
What do you think is going on there when that happens?
because there was, I don't want to say it was like a purpose, because I've always just enjoyed doing it, but there was something rewarding along with the work, rather than I didn't now need to be the best. It was, you know, I made someone's day by doing something, and it was just baking. In doing the work, I found the satisfaction of the return.
Right. But you still, from this experience, went on to do baking in a more like corporate hotel hospitality setting. So
I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just tried everything.
How long were you doing
that? So my internship was only 11 weeks. So that was very brief. I stayed at the place past that, but then they wanted to do all of their baking in-house. That didn't end up continuing. So I went and I worked at like a small little cafe, coffee shop. Really liked that environment.
How long were you there?
Probably 6 or so months.
Okay.
There were just some management things that it wasn't a good fit. And so a bunch of the people that worked there was just some turnover. And then I went from there to corporate, right into the corporate world, like one exit shy of Boston. So I was, 21 driving into Boston every day, which is terrifying. I hate driving.
You did 2 years at culinary school?
2 years at culinary.
So now we're like
I graduated.
13,
I graduated high school at 17.
Okay.
So I was 17, 18 in college. So I graduated college in 2014.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you're like just out of college. It's like 2014, 2015. Yeah. You're in the corporate world.
Yeah.
How long did this last? You did love it.
I loved it.
So what'd you love about that? Because not what you described before.
No.
As far as what you loved.
So it took me a while to get here. So I went to work for a big corporate catering company, and we specialized in just corporations. So they were doing like the Fortune 500 companies in Boston. Like they would order meals every day. They had a division that was private airlines. So I was making desserts that were going on private airlines. And I think I liked the busyness of it. I liked the pace. The pace of that was really, really fun. The level of work that I was doing wasn't super like technically advanced because it was high production, but I realized I was really good at working fast.
Okay.
And I just liked the pace.
I mean, it's a great skill to pick up too. I mean,
yeah.
There's the creative side, but then there's also the reality of throughput, and you can only earn as much as you can make.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, how is that serving you today?
You know, it's a new business, so we're still figuring all of that out. But I've always, so since that job, I realized that I really just liked high production.
Okay.
So for the first like couple years of the business, I did most of the production myself until we brought on some bakers. Wow. And we're still doing really high production for how small of a space it is.
That's awesome. So, okay. So from 2015 to 2021, when you break off and open your own business, what was the evolution? Like what were you, like, what was going through your mind? Was there strategy, or were you just trying to figure it out? Like,
so there was now the combination of, now I live in my first apartment. So I have bills to pay, right? Got to get health insurance, have bills to pay. So I actually worked multiple jobs. I was always actually working as a server as well as having some sort of second bakery job. So I had the job that I loved, which would be working at whatever bakery I was at the time. And then the job that paid my bills, which was waiting tables or bussing tables or being a dishwasher, and having some sort of like front and back of the house job at the same time. And then brings us to 2020 and COVID. And suddenly I went from having 3 jobs to no jobs.
What was it like to work in the industry? And I think that time between 2015 and 2020 was like probably the hardest time ever to work in the industry and to make ends meet.
Yeah. So I definitely saw more money on the front of the house side of things. I don't think I realized I ever liked people. Honestly, it didn't ever occur to me that I really just liked people and the connections of serving people in whichever way that is, whether it was literally serving them in the front of the house or making food for them in the back of the house. So I always had a serving job, and I actually got into teaching in that time period too. So I was a chef instructor up at a college.
Oh, cool.
And I loved that. That was my favorite job. Something that I'd like to get back to eventually.
Okay.
Really love
as a
teaching.
Business owner, teaching never ends.
Teaching never ends.
So, but I guess what I'm curious, like, was it hard to work in the industry, have multiple jobs, pay rent?
Yeah.
Like, get into like the realities of that.
What up, unstoppable restaurant owners and operators? We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that Restaurant Unstoppable and Restaurant Systems Pro, we're taking our relationship to the next level. Beginning in July of 2024, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is making himself available once a week in Restaurant Unstoppable Network to answer all of your restaurant systems questions, whether it's be profit margins. He will look at your P&L. Bring your P&L. He will take a look at that. He will dissect it. He will help you find your profit, whether that be through budgeting, inventory management, costing recipe cards, labor, checklists, you name it. He is a master of restaurant systems, and he's making himself available to you. Fred Langley and Restaurant Systems Pro started as a consulting firm, and for over 16 years, they've been helping their clients increase their profit by 10% or more. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to join our Facebook group, Restaurant Unstoppable Network.
So I worked, let me see, I think the most money I ever made as like the person running, we used to joke and call it the cakes department, but basically making every cake that left. I was working for someone else, making every cake that left a bakery to the tune of 40, 50 cakes a week. I think I was making $18 an hour.
Wow.
To essentially bring in, you know, a quarter of the revenue for the business between weddings and birthdays and celebrations and daily sales. And that was exhausting, seeing my paycheck that I knew I had to leave at the end of my day and go work another job so that I could pay my bills. And I think that's when the shift started to happen for me, that like, oh, I should do this for myself. Because I didn't ever mind working hard, but it was really hard to work so hard and then not be able to pay your bills at the end of the day. Yeah, and it was at a time where like it was easy to get a restaurant job, especially a front of the house job. It's definitely not that way anymore. People are so much more selective. But I remember like if you were serving somewhere and you weren't finding that the money was falling, you just followed the money somewhere else. And I was super fortunate at that time. I worked for a restaurant group that was fantastic. So they had one restaurant that I started at. They had another restaurant across the street. They let me work at both. And so I was doing like 80-hour weeks just trying to make ends meet, but still baking.
Were you ever working in restaurants as a pastry chef, like running like the dessert? Okay.
But at one of the restaurants I used to work at, so I was working in the morning, I was working as a cake decorator, and then I would go across the street and wait tables at night, and they would do like these pop-up dinners. So that was my introduction into the world of pop-ups. They were kind of ahead of their time with it. And once a month they would do like an underground reservations only. You had to be on a secret list menu. And when they found out that I was a baker, they let me do the dessert courses for some of these dinners.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, how come they weren't like trying to pull you in for their...
So they did. And it was really cool because I think that was the first time that specifically chefs that I looked up to saw me as an equal on that playing field. And that was really cool.
That's cool.
That was really cool that it wasn't necessarily, I didn't need the recognition and the clapping at the end and explaining my dish, but that the chefs and my peers saw me as a peer. And I was like, this is really cool.
Yeah. You keep bringing something up that I think is an underlying, like really what I think we don't talk about it enough, but like I think all people really want and need to be happy is to be seen. You brought it up with your customers, being able to be seen for recognizing them and what they want and delivering that and how good that feels, but also being seen by your peers as an equal. And I think there's so much emphasis in the world and the industry today around accolades and like ego, to your point.
So much.
What drives us. And do you think there's a shift happening where we're getting away from that?
I hope there is. I hope there is. And I think that now in my career and just in my life, I've tried to surround myself with people that think the same way. But I think there is still, unfortunately, a lot of ego in the industry. I've seen it more so places that I've worked front of the house. I feel like there's a lot of ego. You know, the kitchen is more, who is more important? What's the rank? You know what I mean? That's who is the chef? Who is the sous chef? You address them as chef. You address anyone else as a lesser. And that's so hard. And seeing that from, you know, different sides. I've worked myself around the kitchens. I've never understood it. And I don't.
Where do you think it comes from?
It's just the way it was for so long. That's just, your chef was your chef.
Right.
Your chef was the chef. And that's what, you know, that's what it was. And I think there's an acknowledgement of it, but I don't think there's enough of a shift yet getting away from that behavior. Like if you look at the show The Bear, right? So we're acknowledging that happens, and we're acknowledging that there are these chefs, and that's really how they are, that they're yelling at you, and you know, you're made to feel small. but what are we doing now that we recognize that? Who are the people that are doing something about it now that we're recognizing that that happens?
So what do we need to do?
Work hard and be nice to people.
Yeah, right back to the beginning.
I think you have to consciously decide that that's not, it has to start from the top. It has to start from the people that you're expecting to be on that pedestal. And it has to start there and it has to come down, and you have to treat everyone equally or as equally as possible,
Right. So 2020.
Yeah.
Where were you working?
2020, I am serving at a bar at night. I am teaching high school by day, and I am baking cakes out of home the rest of the time.
Well, this is so during the pandemic. This is
this is right before the pandemic hits, and then it is St. Patrick's Day weekend, and we get a text that if you're working on the floor this weekend, the restaurant's indefinitely shut down. I was a paraeducator at a high school, and they said, "Hey, we don't know what's happening with all of you. Stay tuned." And I'm baking from home, recreationally, and now all of a sudden we're really not supposed to be driving or going anywhere.
Right.
So I went from having 3 jobs to 0 jobs
what
overnight.
About, so you probably got support, I would imagine, as an employee from...
No.
Really?
So here's the funny story, and here's how kind of Fresh AF started. Because I was a paraeducator, it was my first 3 months working in a school. It was my first ever school job. I was also teaching part-time at the college as well. So the college classes are just canceled, and we were just contracted employees at then. So there was nothing that happened there.
Full-time.
Nope. I was adjunct. So that just stopped. At the restaurant, we were tipped employees. So that just stopped. And, as a paraeducator, they didn't know what was going on because we were going remotely. So because I've always worked and I had bills to pay and I panicked, I went out and I got a job literally that week because I went from 3 jobs to no jobs. Went out and got a job at a coffee shop pouring coffee for $9 an hour. Because I did that, I made myself ineligible for any assistance.
Oh my gosh.
During COVID. So because I kind of proactively went out and was like, oh no, I lost all of my jobs. I don't know where my income is coming from. And I got a job for $9 an hour. I now had a $9 an hour job, and I didn't get any COVID relief. So I never got any COVID relief.
I mean, it's so frustrating because I feel like it just incentivizes people to not work.
Yes. So if I would have just waited another week, they had changed the guidelines, and it happened for a lot of us that were serving and had multiple jobs. So all of the teachers, the moms, I don't want to say just the moms, but the women, I worked with primarily women at the time, the moms, anyone, dental assistants that they worked, in the office during the week, and then they worked, at nights and weekends, because no one really knew what was going on. At first, unemployment only worked if you lost hours. So if you still worked 40 hours a week, you didn't get any incentives. We didn't know that, so we all went out and got second jobs.
But also, what does it say about the industry where the clear no-brainer path is to collect unemployment? Because
awful.
Yeah,
awful.
I just feel like that's not a sign that we need to change something in the industry.
Absolutely. And I was so lucky that the restaurant group I worked for had multiple locations. One of them had a patio. So as soon as patio seating was open, they reached out to us all and they said, hey, does anyone want to come back to work? And like you just said, there were so many people that said, no, we'd rather stay home and collect the $600 guaranteed dollars a week. And I was like, yes, I want to go back to work. I want to go back to work. So I went back to work. Oh my God, so many hours. I think I worked every single day because I didn't like that feeling of they always say, the 2 most secure jobs, go into education and go into food service. You'll never want for a job. And all of a sudden, none of us have jobs anymore.
It's crazy.
So I was so lucky that during COVID, I was able to work at this restaurant with a patio. And so...
Where was this restaurant?
I worked for the Thirsty Moose company.
Okay.
So I worked first at their Portsmouth location and then at their Exeter location.
Oh, okay, cool.
Love them. They're great people. So I worked for them. And then that's when the baking from home started because I was going absolutely insane. I had to do something. So I started baking from home a little bit and was like, okay.
When during the pandemic did that start, the baking from home?
So that was probably right about when like patios started opening up again. So like
summer?
Spring, summertime.
Late spring, summer.
Because everyone else had money to spend.
Right.
I didn't.
Right.
I didn't have any money to spend, but everyone else had an extra $600 a week to spend. So selling $10 banana breads, I would do $15 and it got delivered to you.
So how'd you start that banana bread thing? Was it just like social media or?
Social media. And I always baked a little bit for money, but not really. I didn't really pursue it. I would do like cake orders every once in a while, friends and family, couple of orders here and there. And during COVID, I was like, you know what, maybe I should do something with this. Like maybe I should actually turn this into a business because it seems like it's going well.
What made you think it was going well?
I just started making money doing it.
What kind of money?
At first it was probably like an extra $200 to $300 a week.
Okay.
So it was
at $10. So
and gas was $2 a gallon. So like, how do you know what I mean?
So you're doing 20 to 30 banana breads a week.
Yeah.
Wow. And how were you? Was it just friends and family?
At first friends and family, and then just people, like word would get out. And so, if I delivered to one house on a street, they told their neighbors. And now the next week I was delivering to 2 houses on the street.
And were you like spinning this like, hey, basically without a job, pandemic, looking to make money?
Kind of. At first it was like kind of a desperation thing. Like, hey, I have no jobs and I need to make some money, but you guys all know I know how to bake. So does anyone want banana breads? And then that turned into, okay, well, I'll make some coffee cakes. And then it was, well, how about scones? And then it was, well, how about I put everything in a box and you can get a box of assorted desserts.
How much time from just cooking banana bread to delivering a box? Like how much time, what time period did that evolution take place in?
Probably like 3 or 4 weeks, like a month.
Oh, wow.
It caught off really fast, which was cool. And then, so when I started seeing like, oh, this might be successful, because New Hampshire at the time, if you were making more than $10,000 a year, you had to register as a business.
Yeah, I was curious about that. If you were flying under the radar.
So I was, but within the constraints of what I was allowed to do. So I was living in a town that allowed homestead baking.
What town was this?
This was Danville.
Okay.
So as long as you weren't making hazardous products, you could fly under the radar unless you were doing like shipped sales. You didn't have to have an inspection.
Right.
The laws used to be, because they all changed after COVID, they used to be very lenient, very home baker friendly. So I started doing that and said, oh, like let's register maybe as an LLC, like let's register the business. And the name that I was using for my business at the time.
What was it?
I can't say it.
Oh, really?
So yes. So the name that I was using for the business, it was cutesy, and I started it when I had a little green punch buggy and I was 15 years old. And so this name that I just kind of always used, I went to register it, and the state said, whoa, hold up. There's an ice cream truck with a similar name up in like Thornton, New Hampshire.
Okay.
And they said, your choices are pick a new name, or you can contact them and ask them if you can use this name. And if they say, okay, okay. So I write a letter and I reach out, I find their information. They haven't been in business for, I think 3 or 4 years, but they still have that name. And I reach out to them and I say, hey, I'm doing this. I'm a baker. These are the things I'm making. It looks like you have an ice cream truck. I'm not trying to step on any toes here. And they said, that sounds lovely. Here's a cease and desist. Oh. So I immediately, overnight, Facebook page is gone. Website is gone.
How much have you built those up?
At that point, really not. They just kind of hung around. I think at the time I had like 200 Facebook followers.
Okay.
In like a private-ish page. No, it was like a general Gmail.
And you can hang on to those emails. Just transfer the list to a new account.
But anything that was public and used for sales, I said,
Facebook,
all done.
Website. And how much energy did you put into your website?
Not a lot at the time.
What were you using for a website?
I think it was whatever came with like, it wasn't even Square. It was because now we use Square. It might have been like a WordPress that I paid to get the WordPress taken off the end of the domain name. It was nothing fancy at all. So overnight that's gone, and I was literally laying in bed and was like, what am I gonna do? Because I know now I want to do this.
Right.
But I need a new name, and that's how Fresh AF came about. Was literally laying in bed and having an epiphany that I was like, I am not the cutesy little sugar plum fairy name that I came up with when I was 15, and I just wanted to be the next biggest cake decorator, and that was so fun. I'm like, I'm a little battle hardened now. I'm a little more outspoken. I'm a little more this, and it was kind of a running joke in my family. They always called me Fresh. They said, you're always fresh. You have a fresh mouth. You're always fresh. And I was like, well, you know what? And I told my boyfriend, and I said, I think I know what I want to name my business. And he said, what? And I said, Fresh AF. And he's like, don't do that. That's a terrible idea. And I was like, done. The papers are signed. Absolutely.
I think it's great. And I'm surprised. Did you get trouble like writing because
so as funny as I can be, I'm also kind of smart. So legally, the business entity is Fresh AF. So it may heavily imply the name if you're fun, but legally it doesn't hold up to be anything offensive or crude. So a little bit of pushback, mostly people on the internet, but those aren't our people. So the branding in itself has actually done wonders for creating the environment that we want to have.
Well, yeah, it is your brand is an extension of who you are,
yeah.
And you're fresh, and like that is like walking a line of like borderline offensive, but
also kind of funny. And if you do really care, we're probably not the bakery for you.
Who was giving you a hard time?
So my grandmother doesn't like it, which is funny. But we just tell her it means fresh and friendly, and she doesn't know. But it's usually just like people on the internet that have never been in here, and they say how crude I am. And actually, it was funny a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago now, when we moved to Plaistow to our new location. Someone said, I went to this bakery. It was great. You should all visit. And someone commented and said, absolutely not. Can I support that business? Because she's classless. She might make good pastries, but she's classless. It was a former teacher of mine.
What?
And so I kind of
Did she know who you were?
No, I don't think she did. But even if you did, that's not a thing you should say to someone. And so I responded to her and was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but I remember you. And I really used to like you and look up to you. And since I've seen you last, these are all the things that I've done. And I've built a business that was successful enough that I got another store and I employ 10 people and I'm doing all of these good things. So, that's kind of where we are.
Don't always judge a book by the cover.
Exactly.
And plus, you can't make everybody happy. So you might as well be the Ross version of yourself and just really ring true to people who think it's awesome.
And then on the flip side of that is we now have so many more people that come in and they literally say, I've never been in before, but thank you. I've never been in before, but thank you for being authentic. And thank you for showing your messy house on your days off. And thank you for wearing sweatpants to work and showing the real side of life and business and all of that.
Yeah, the brand definitely resonates deeper as a result.
Absolutely. Towards the end of my former business, it felt like I was trying so hard. Even like writing a caption on Instagram felt like it just didn't feel authentic, and I didn't really get the concept of like branding. I still really don't think I do a whole lot of I don't see it as branding. I've kind of like made myself the brand of the business. And even then I don't like the word branding, but it was exhausting to try to keep up with an image and what cutesy little filter do I use and what bows do I tie on the packages? And now it's just kind of like, I made stuff. Would you like it?
Yeah.
Here we go. We're going to have a good time. Come in tired on a Sunday morning and get a box of pastry. That's what we're here for.
Well, and your brand is kind of a little fresh. Like even like your social media, like you're kind of not bad, but like you just like, I don't know, you can be suggestive.
Exactly.
Sometimes.
And just honest and like kind of raw around the edges. Hey, I don't have cinnamon buns this morning because I slept through my alarm because I am freaking tired.
Yeah.
And that resonates with people.
Right.
And I like that resonates with people.
Yeah. So when did you choose the new brand, Fresh AF? Was that in 2021?
Would have been 2021.
Okay.
And so I had my first child in 2021. So things happen real quick, real fast. So I decided that baking was going to be my full-time thing. I stopped working at the coffee shop I was working at, and I was
no longer serving at...
I was still
Thirsty
working
Moose?
at the Thirsty Moose, which was great. Found out that I was pregnant, which was, yeah. So that was that. And was like, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I served.
Where did you build Fresh AF at this point? Like, what were you
I was renting.
Boxes?
Yeah. So I was renting an apartment in Hampton, an illegal apartment, living in someone's garage, beautiful garage, but a garage, and started baking out of there, and then delivering. So we were living there. Now we're looking for a house.
What was the volume you were doing at this point?
Insane.
Like
I
what?
think I was making like 48 banana breads a week. So I would have like mega bake days, and then
480 a week.
Yeah. And then delivering things like hot right out of the oven. At one point I was doing like cake orders. So every week I would kind of like have a special. And so I would buy like 50 bakery boxes, because at this point I'm still ordering for like a home size business. So I would order 50 bakery boxes, fill them with pastry, and I would do 50 pre-orders, and then that was it.
So you're doing banana bread and you're doing pre-orders. Like,
Yep.
what was the volume? Like, how much were you making like a week at this point?
When it got busy, like 12 to 1,500 a week.
And what was your cost of goods and labor expense?
I had no idea at that point.
Okay.
Wasn't tracking that because
Well, your labor was you.
my labor was me.
Your cost of goods, so you weren't like, you were profiting, I'm assuming.
Definitely profiting, but had no idea of the financials of the business.
Okay. Do you think you were doing more than 10,000 a year?
Yes, which is why. Or at least I was on track to,
Yeah.
which is why I was like, okay,
Gotta
it's
legitimize this.
exactly. I've never been one to break the rules
Right.
ever, so it was like, okay, I can see the way that this is trending. We have to make this legitimate now. And then when I worked all through my pregnancy, and then when I had my daughter, I couldn't sleep. I was literally in the hospital scrolling to try to find commercial real estate, like commercial leases. Found a spot in Kingston.
Okay.
And was like, this could be promising. Didn't think anything of it.
Where was this in Kingston? Because I never got to that
Yeah.
spot.
So we were in a little strip mall, just a little strip mall in the middle of nowhere in Kingston.
Is that the same strip mall that Kingston House of Pizza was in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Grew up on that pizza.
Fremont House of Pizza of Kingston.
Wait, so there's two strip malls. There's one that's like at that weird intersection with like the flower shop across the street, but there's another one
Yes.
further up.
So we were the further up one. So
Okay,
there's
across from
Kingston
the
House of
ballpark.
Pizza, which is near like the wrestling
Yep,
barn. And then we were in the other one with like a community thrift store,
Got
a
it.
barber shop.
across from the ballpark.
Yes.
Got it.
So I found that on Craigslist, in the sketchiest Craigslist ad that it could have ever been. And I think I was 9 days postpartum, and it was the first place I drove to that I told no one, and was like, oh, the rent's $600. So I brought a check for $600, met a man from the internet, gave him a check, and was like, I guess I'm going to make this a bakery now.
So where was that location in terms of sinks and code? And
Nothing. So
Okay.
it was the office of a dog walker. It was a dog walker's office. Her business, she actually went back to the plaza, which is awesome. But she closed that business during COVID, and it had nothing in it. And I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and thought, blank slate, this will be so easy. And then always, like, my worst case was, worst case, I'm out $600 a month. And I was still waitressing at the time. So I was
that's
like,
2 nights of work on a really,
and I
maybe
was like,
3.
so worst case, if this doesn't work out, I have a $600 a month storage unit. What could
Yeah.
go wrong? What could go wrong? So my risk to reward was kind of balanced. And originally the plan for that bakery was I was just going to run it like a studio. So I was going to make a kitchen just for me to work in, to continue doing my pop-ups and my deliveries, and maybe put a bakery case in the front so I could pop up one day a month and do things on a very small scale. So I put in the whole kitchen, and I get my sinks, and I get my ovens, and I do all of this. And I was grassroots funding it. I did a Kickstarter campaign, which was awesome. So I did like some community crowdfunding to say, hey,
Did you need a hood?
I didn't need a hood because I didn't fry, and I bought
Okay.
electric equipment.
Got it.
So I did my
How
research.
did you have the budget to build
As
that kitchen?
quickly as I
Okay.
jump into things, I also am very quick to research. So I found all of the very legal workarounds. So you only need a hood if you're frying or if you have gas.
Right.
I made sure I did
You
neither.
weren't cooking proteins either.
No.
Yeah.
Nope. So I made sure that was just all good. And then I opened up, and I was selling out of product within 2 hours.
Wow.
2 hours every time.
That's crazy.
And so what I thought would be just a little studio for me to do pop-ups turned into, I think our first day we did $3,000
Wow.
in like cake pops and cupcakes.
Where was your following at this point? Like, how did people know about you?
So this is when I really started on social. I ran one $30 Facebook ad.
Wow.
And at this time I had bought a house in Newmarket, and I was baking out of my home in
Bought
Newmarket.
a house?
Yeah.
This is when
During
you could buy
COVID.
a house.
This is when you could buy a house with my 2% interest rate that I will die in my house. So at this time, I now own a home in Newmarket. I am pregnant as anything, but we had a farmer's porch, and I had this refrigerator. I still have it. I have it here, but I had a commercial refrigerator that a family member had gifted to me when I decided I wanted to be a baker at 15. And that had always been my cake fridge. So it followed me throughout my life. And that's when I did little orders. That's what it went into. And I took this fridge and I put it on my porch, and we ran an extension cord out to the farmer's porch, and I did contactless pickups.
Okay.
kind of before that was really a thing.
Were you cooking at your house or cooking at the commercial
I
kitchen?
was cooking at my house in Newmarket.
Okay.
So I started the Facebook following at that point. I'm backtracking a little. So I started building the Facebook following at that point. This is what I'm doing. I'm a baker. This is what I'm making. And I would do contactless pickups. And I was running like $2,000 a week.
Wow.
Doing that. I built a Square site. I bought a domain. And so it was, you could order a cake. You could do contactless pickup. I was making all of these things. And that was working. And so that was when I said, okay, let's get a space. And really the idea was just to have a kitchen that I was going to use as kind of my own commissary kitchen. I never really intended to go full retail.
So you were going to bake the food there, drive it home.
I was going to
either
do that or like open up the front of the bakery once a month or so, find farmers markets to go to, keep delivering. I didn't really know what it was going to look like, but it was never supposed to be walk-in retail.
What was the biggest struggle during this period of finding that location to getting it ready to legally produce goods?
Everything took twice as long as was 3 times as expensive as I thought it would be.
What did you think it was going to be?
So I signed my lease in May and I didn't open until November in a 600 square foot space. Most of it was because septic requirements in New Hampshire. So what I thought was all set, like my sinks were installed, everything was all set and ready to go. But New Hampshire, 14 days before I applied for my application for food service, changed the plumbing code.
Oh my gosh.
And so they went from requiring a grease trap that goes in and connects to your sink on the inside of the kitchen to they needed a grease interceptor outside in the ground tied into the septic tank. And so I signed the lease in May. We're now like June, July, August, and the owners of the building weren't really receptive to doing that.
So originally you thought it was going to take 3 months, ended up taking 6 months.
6 months.
So what was it? How'd you get them to eventually be willing to
I stopped paying my rent.
Oh, there's some leverage.
I stopped paying my rent. So I was paying full rent the full time that I was there. Said, hey, I really need this done. I really need this done. I really need this done. I had invested $15,000 at that point. I was still waitressing on the weekends. I now have a newborn at home. Like I would bring a pack and play and my very, very, very tiny baby and do things at the bakery to try to get it set up. And I stopped paying the rent for a month and then I had a grease interceptor.
Oh my gosh.
So
that's one way to get things done.
I got it done.
Good for you. So 7,000. So you probably thought it was gonna cost about 7,500. Ended up costing 15,000.
Yeah.
Thought it was gonna be 3 months. Took 6 months.
Yep.
Any advice, like things that you just wish you knew?
I wish I had contractors in place before I signed a lease. So I had no relationship with I didn't know an electrician. I didn't know a plumber. I didn't have those business relationships in place. So trying to find those people when I already had a space, so hard.
Yeah.
So hard. Whereas now that I have those contacts, finding a second space was so much easier because I had someone to talk logistics with me. Yeah, exactly.
So 2021, May 2021, you move into this space 2024, correct?
Yeah, we moved into the Plaistow space on Father's Day was our opening day.
That's March?
June.
Sorry, Dad.
No, we signed the lease to this space in March. Okay. We closed Kingston on April 20th. It's our biggest day of the year. So we had a 420 going away party. My goal was to be open here May 1st. And I knew that was a super tricky timeline, but we had signed the lease for here in March. There was supposed to be a couple months of overlapping work so that we'd really only have 2 weeks shut down of nothing. And then that didn't necessarily happen. So we opened here in June.
Okay. So from the time that you opened here in June of 2024, from, I guess it would have been when did you end up opening? November 2021.
Yep.
Almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Ish. Where did you get your business to in Kingston before coming here in terms of the scale and all that?
$1 million.
$1 million in revenue.
$1 million in revenue.
Okay. At this point, are you just volume's good? Who cares about the numbers? Did you know your cost of goods and you know your labor expense?
Not as well as I do now. So Kingston grew way too big, way too fast.
What do you mean?
I thought, so this little thing that I thought was just going to be pop-ups for just me turned into $15,000 weeks in a 600 square foot space.
Wow.
Insane. So very quickly, I went from, I'm going to do this all myself. And my brother has worked with me since day one. So it was going to be me in the kitchen, him as retail. And then when we were open, we were going to I used to do the bake in the morning, fill the cases. Once the doors open, me and him did retail. And then I would wash the dishes at night and go home. I hired retail. I hired more bakers. And we went from like a hole in the wall, nothing, to constantly selling out. And we've always run a 4-day-a-week schedule. So we've run Thursday through Sunday. So we ran $1 million in 3 years being open 4 days a week.
Wow. What were you doing right?
Consistency. I would rather not open my doors than sell product I'm not proud of. So when we sold out, we sold out. I didn't have in Kingston, I didn't have, freezers on freezers of product. We didn't prep more than we could sell. We didn't prep anything earlier than it would be best for. And I just refused to compromise on the quality of everything, because even if I didn't know when we were going to sell out, I couldn't guarantee the consistency of hours. I was guaranteeing the consistency of the product.
Right. You brought up that you were running ads at one point.
Yep. A one-time Facebook ad for $30.
That's all you ever did.
That's all I've ever done in paid advertising.
For paid advertising. But what about marketing? You're pretty active on social media.
That's really it. It's all of the marketing is organic.
Okay.
It's crazy.
So what has your approach been to social media this whole time?
I write a post at 5 a.m. Usually it's whatever is on my mind that day. That's usually like my wake up in the morning. I make a post and I see what sticks. And there really is no rhyme or reason to the social media. It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
Well, you're very vulnerable. A lot of the social media is you.
Yes.
Your day-to-day challenges. It's almost like you're speaking to other business owners.
Kind of. So,
customers.
Yeah, it's more of, I've always been an over-explainer. So it's, I'm not just going to say, oh, sorry, we're out of cinnamon buns this morning. It's, I slept in because I'm really tired. And I've always enjoyed sharing the more human part of, and I think it honestly started out as me justifying to people why I felt like I did a bad job that day. So it was, I think this transparency started as me being like, I'm so sorry, and almost apologizing. And then it kind of morphed into me just sharing like the realities of what was happening, that I was like, oh, people do have an interest in knowing the behind the scenes. So it transitioned from like apologizing for being out of XYZ, having to close the doors, I'm so sorry, into like, this is what's actually happening, and this is real, and this is a real part of business ownership and being a parent and running the business and all of the things that come along with it.
Got it. Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the amount of social
media? Every single day. So the great thing about the social media is I've been able to connect with so many people. And I've never really looked at the social media in terms of like follower counts, but I think we're up to like between our Facebook and our Instagram, I think we have about 15,000 followers, which is not lost on me. That is that's an insane amount of people that want to listen to what I have to say, which is crazy. But I've never been concerned about the follower count, but we have, and not all, I think a lot of people don't understand as well, not every follower is a customer, but the people that do come in and the people that do shop with us and that are our guests sometimes feel like they know me a little bit more than they do. And so that is exhausting and very overwhelming, and trying to like balance being present and showing up online and sharing about the business, but also managing the relationships that come along with that as well. So
on Instagram, you're at 5,684, and on Facebook, I might not remember my Facebook username and password. I'm horrible.
Yeah, I'm
guessing it's around 10,000. If you're getting,
I think it's
12,000.
So oh gosh, that's a lot of people.
So, but what I'm hearing from you, it's more about impact than reach.
Yes. I've never cared about like the metrics of how many people are following us. I care about like the value of the content and that I'm putting out rather than how many people want to consume it. Nothing I've ever posted is to get more followers. It's not really a concern of mine is to grow the followers, but it is really kind of cool to know how many people are interested in the content that we create.
So the content you're creating, it's a lot of visual, obviously, of the food, the work you're doing, when you're having like discounts, 30% off, 15% off. delayed opening. It's really just like information, like here's what's happening. I've seen your stories and how you just basically kind of talk about like how you're feeling today.
Yeah.
Oh, like you're answering questions about the business, like how'd you get the loan and all this stuff. I'm like, I'm really going to like talking to this person because I know she's going to be super vulnerable.
Yeah.
She's going to open up and she's going to get into the details, which we really haven't even gotten into a lot of that stuff yet. You're a little sassy in some
Very
of your posts.
sassy.
Like I just saw one, Fresh AF After Dark.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're having fun with the brand.
And so the thing about that is like
adult content.
Yeah. And then the background to that is like, we're doing Fresh AF After Dark, 1, because it's fun and we want to do specials, but 2, because business has been slow. Okay. So yes, it's a lot of like, oh, we're doing these really fun things. It's just like creativity to survive in an industry that's really hard.
Well, as a pastry chef, I think you're naturally a creative person. Are you doing all of your own design on social media?
Yeah.
What are you using to do that?
A lot of Canva.
Okay.
I love it. Works perfectly for me.
Yeah.
For what I do and how I show up, and you know, as involved as I want to be, it's fantastic.
Got it. In terms of like where you like paint the picture, I usually have my guests answer this question when we first get started. I forgot to ask you. I apologize. Where are you today? Paint the picture of where you're at today.
How so? Like
in terms of now you're 5 miles down the street in Plaistow, New Hampshire. You're at a bigger location. I'm assuming it's a bigger footprint.
So today, it's 2,000 square feet here, which is crazy. I have a walk-in fridge.
Compared to what was the
600?
Wow, so over double.
600. We have a walk-in fridge and freezer, which has like that changed my life. So that's fantastic. I have a staff of 10 people. My team is awesome. We're doing this. I don't want to say the same
volume.
Not the same volume. So like we're seeing. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. Sorry. So the other day I was going through our sales and we're looking forward to like the holiday season, and I'm trying to figure out logistics of this new space, right? Because we've only been here for 90 days. It's basically a whole new business. I knew Kingston like the back of my hand. This is a whole new animal. So I'm going back and I'm looking at our busiest day of the year, which was Christmas Eve of 2023. How many guests did we serve? Oh, we served 127 guests that day. And I was like, oh man, that day felt hard. That day felt really hard. Okay. Last Thursday, when I looked at the sales, we served 135 guests. Wow. And we said, wow, it's slow today. So just the way that the business has grown, this space feels easier with the way that we've set it up with better systems. But it still feels like a brand new business.
So you've also probably, now that you have more people working for you, your labor expense are going up. Your rent's probably more expensive. Yeah. The cost of goods have gone up for everybody.
Yeah.
Eggs.
So it's so funny though, because like, so I've always been a couponer, like even in my personal life, I've always been like an extreme super couponer. So I don't notice the cost of goods as much. Not that I don't notice it and I'm not aware of it. I'm very crafty with how I buy things. So that has not had an impact as much as labor has. And so much of the business is built on treating people right. So we're paying so far above industry standard. My greatest expense here is labor, and I would not change a thing about it. We're running consistently a 40% labor cost, and I have absolutely no regrets.
So is your gross maintaining or going up or going down?
Right now, going down. So in Kingston, I bought things as I could afford them. So I was still waiting tables. I had a little bit of savings money from my other jobs. And people were so generous with like tipping during COVID because they had an extra $600 a week. So a banana bread was $10. They gave me $15. So I had a little bit of money to play with. And I just bought things as I needed them. So, I need another KitchenAid mixer. We worked a couple of weeks and then I bought another KitchenAid mixer. I had no debt in Kingston. To do the build out here, I started day one $100,000 in debt.
What up, Unstoppable restaurant owners and operators? We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that Restaurant Unstoppable and Restaurant Systems Pro, we're taking our relationship to the next level. Beginning in July of 2024, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is making himself available once a week in Restaurant Unstoppable Network to answer all of your restaurant systems questions, whether it's the profit margins. He will look at your P&L. Bring your P&L. He will take a look at that. He will dissect it. He will help you find your profit, whether that be through budgeting, inventory management, costing recipe cards, labor, checklists, you name it. He is a master on restaurant systems, and he's making himself available to you. Fred Langley and Restaurant Systems Pro started as a consulting firm, and for over 16 years, they've been helping their clients increase their profit by 10% or more. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to join our Facebook group, Restaurant Unstoppable Network.
Where'd you get the loan?
Square.
Okay,
So
explain that.
yes, I love Square. I love them. So Square takes your it's not available to everybody. You have to do a certain amount of sales volume with them. I quite honestly, I don't know. Square decides what it is. So they use their algorithm to see what your sales are.
I think it have to be a year in business too, minimum.
They have their
qualifiers.
Yeah. So once, I think for us, it was once we did $250,000 in sales, they said, hey, do you want a loan?
Right.
And I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And they said, listen, we will offer you up to, I think at the time it was up to $10,000.
Okay.
We'll offer you up to $10,000. You can choose how much you want.
What you said at the time.
So this was in Kingston,
Okay.
like 6 months into opening Kingston. And they said, we'll give you up to $10,000. You can choose how much of your daily credit card sales a day you want to go towards repaying the loan. And I said, okay, sounds great. And they just have a hard money loan fee. So there's no interest, there's no penalties, there's no prepayment penalty. They just take a set percentage of your sales every day until the loan's paid off. So I did that 3 times in the old location.
How long did it take you to pay off the first $10,000?
I think that was like 6 or 7 months.
Okay.
Yep, 6 or 7 months at like a 5% repayment.
Okay. And did you do anything different the second time around?
I took more money out. So I was like, oh, I really liked that. That seemed easy. We didn't notice it. So I think I took $20,000 out at 10% of our sales every day. When we moved into Plaistow, I took $100,000 out, and we're at a 20% daily repayment.
Wow.
So automatically, 20% of our credit card sales don't even see our bank account. They go back to Square every day.
How much of that 100,000 have you chipped away?
53
Wow.
in July, August, September, October, 5 months.
Well, what's interesting, what you're doing is essentially using the same mindset, the same principles as Profit First.
Yeah.
But you're allocating cash flow to your profit account, which would be paying off debt.
Exactly.
So you're taking, like they say in Profit First, you should put at least 10% of all revenue into a profit account, which is used to pay off debt or purchase assets.
Yeah. So I'm literally insane. 20% of our sales every day, credit card sales, go back to that Square loan repayment. I also set aside 8.5% of the daily sales, credit card sales, for meals tax.
Okay.
And super cool. In New Hampshire, we're a bakery. So if anyone buys, and it's a combination of seating and what we sell and how we don't have, like, if we don't serve on real plates, so we don't have to wash dishes, we're not a restaurant, we're a bakery. So we set aside 8.5% of every sale, but I don't always have to collect tax on that. So even though we're not collecting the tax on every sale, I'm pretending that we are, and I'm setting it aside. And then I set aside another 5% on top of that. So 33.5% of every sale is getting allocated into some sort of loan repayment or savings for us.
Okay, so 20% the loan repayment, 8.5% tax, and 5% is going to
just a savings account, a high yield savings account.
Okay, nice. Are you familiar with Profit First? Did you read that book?
No.
Where'd you learn how to do this?
It works in my brain.
Okay.
It makes sense in my brain. So like at the end of the month, we take that, when I have to go pay my meals tax, I look at what we collected. I look at what we have to pay the state. I already have it aside because it's in that separate account. And then we take the rest and we put that towards another debt.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if 33% is going towards paying off debt and putting money aside to pay the government, are you taking owner's pay?
I am. I pay myself $600 a week.
What percentage is that?
Oh, I don't know. I don't.
I mean, it's a small percentage.
It's very small.
Probably
I think
like 2%, 3%.
Yeah, tiny, enough to pay my home bills.
And then when you pay off that loan, are you going to shift that 20%?
So that 20% will just go into the high yield.
High yield.
Yep.
Awesome.
And then hopefully the goal is that then I can become my own loan provider. So if I'm just taking that 20% that we're not really noticing that's going every day right now. So, we're not feeling the impact of that. We're still making a very, very, very small profit, but there's profit there. Now I can pull from my own accounts instead of having to rely on loans with penalties, not penalties, but with loan fees.
How are you allocating this cash? Are you using checking accounts?
So Square does it all. It's fantastic. So Square
Square's pulling the 20% out. What about the 8.5?
They automatically pull that for me, and it goes a Square designated savings account
so that you can pull from at the end of the year to pay your taxes.
I can pull out at any time I want. I can pay for it daily.
5% out of your income account that goes to.
Same thing. Square takes that 5 and puts it in a Square savings account.
So tell me more about Square. There's different versions of Square.
Yep.
So what version are you using?
So we actually have the beta version. I don't know the full extent of what that means, but because of the amount of volume that we process, they said, hey, do you want some new features? And I said, okay, we'll find out. So I think we just have their basic, if you are looking at their tier program, I think we have the most basic level of service. So it allows us to do online sales, which we don't really do too much of, but we do pre-orders, which is super helpful for me. But I don't run like an online e-commerce. We tried it for a minute. It was just really difficult to manage, like, you know, if I bake off 12 of something in the morning, how do I manage how many are for sale online versus people coming to the store? It was a lot to coordinate. So maybe one day, but not today. But we just used their most basic level of service, and it seemed to work out.
Is it Square for restaurants or Square?
No, I use Square for commerce.
Okay.
Yep. The restaurant was definitely more geared towards, like, if
Full
someone
service.
placed an order, full service, you know, exactly what they're getting in their coffee, how many creams, how many sugar, whereas this is more just like a straight retail.
Got it. What other elements of Square are you using?
I use their loans a lot. I do use their marketing, but I don't necessarily use it to its full extent. If I send you a marketing email, it has a coupon in it. I don't really have time to send you fluff emails and, hey, do you remember we're here? If I'm sending you an email, you're either getting money off or you're getting a free thing, or there's a coupon, or there's a link to, you know, get 15% off your holiday pre-order.
What will trigger you to use that feature?
Honestly, it's just when we have a slow week.
Okay.
It's, so much of...
Is it a matter of pushing volume? Because you do all of your prep on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Yep.
So if you did all that work, you don't want to just waste product.
Exactly.
So you'd rather get something instead of throwing it away.
Yep, exactly.
Got it. This is selfish. Like, I'm just going to hang out and watch your Instagram account now. No, I want to pay a full price and help you guys out. So, I mean, anything else we should know about your tech stack, technology you're leveraging?
No, I'm not as good at it as I'd like to be.
Okay.
I definitely, that's on my agenda for 2025. So when we moved from Kingston, we, sat down with the team and I said, listen, we're moving, we're upgrading, we're going to this bigger space. The first 90 days, we're going to settle in. We're going to get used to our new space. We're going to survive for 90 days. The next 90 days is the holidays. We're going to survive the holidays. After that is when we're going to get good at it. That's when we're going to start doing, new things and new products. And I want to get more involved with actually, being more intentional with the marketing, being more intentional with how we're promoting ourselves. So that's all to come.
What about inventory, costing, budgeting, labor management?
Yep.
Like, where do you stand in all those verticals?
I'm doing it all myself right now, which is super hard because honestly, I know I don't understand all of it. I run the business the way I think that I'd like to run the business. So I know my labor percentages and my cost percentages and my cost of goods, and I know how much every recipe cost me. I don't do enough with that information. I definitely should do more with it. I know that my labor cost should be 42%, but it is, and I like it. What would
you say your prime cost is? Sorry, I cut you short. Do you want to finish your train of thought?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
What was your train of thought?
No, just
42%. It should.
I know it should. Well, it should be less than that. It's not my philosophy for the business.
Right.
I invest in my people first, and I have people that have followed me for 3.5 years. So,
right. So why would you prefer to have longevity and loyalty versus a lower prime cost?
Because I want to be around for a long time. I'm the kind of person, I'm never going to not show up to work every day. I'd like to work a little less than 80 hours a week. But I opened a bakery because I wanted to open a bakery because I like working and I like being here and I like my team. And I wanted so much of the reason why I do things the way I do is because I've worked places that I didn't enjoy working.
Right.
And I didn't like that I didn't feel valued. And I didn't like that I was making $800 wedding cakes and making $15 an hour. I didn't like that I worked at the same restaurant, but when I was working the front of the house waiting tables, I was making $30 an hour. But when I went back into the kitchen and prepared every single dessert that went out, I only made $9.
Right.
There were so many things that I saw an imbalance with that I wanted to change. And so I made those changes here.
Got it. Do you know what your cost of goods are?
So right now we're running at like $15,000 a month.
What percentage is that?
Right. So everything is so thrown off right now because of that big loan. So it's hard for me to calculate off the top of my head because so much of that square is just taking right off the top. We've also been kind of slower than I expected in the new location. I thought that our business would at least double right off the bat, and it didn't.
Do you have any theories as to why?
I don't have a sign out yet. So there's that. We don't have a sign on the street.
Helps, right.
So that definitely helps. But that was $3,000 that I couldn't justify spending right away. As much as I know that I need that, things here to get started. The first 90 days, we had a lot of issues, building specific issues. So I needed to make sure we had money ready to deal with some things. So yeah, we didn't really buy a sign quite yet, but that's coming.
So what were the issues you encountered with the building?
We didn't have AC.
I think I remember these posts.
Yeah.
You had to close because your people were just too hot.
Yes. Yeah. So we didn't have any air conditioning, which we thought we did. We had a beautiful AC unit, and we have vents in the ceiling and vents in the floor, and we had central air that should have turned on and just never did. Okay. So to try to get that fixed took a little longer than we thought.
And you don't own the building, do you?
I do not own the building. I'm a tenant.
And were you going to the landlord asking for this?
Yeah.
And their excuse was?
They were always on the way.
Okay.
Yeah, they were always on the way.
Okay.
So ultimately it just didn't get fixed for about 2 months. From the time we notified them that we noticed we didn't have AC until the time it was fixed was 2 months.
Did you stop paying rent?
I didn't, and maybe I should have. I did though. Ultimately so we were told so many different days that things were getting fixed and they weren't. And then ultimately we opened on Thursday for the week. So I was told absolutely the system they were going to start the work on Monday. It was going to be done by Wednesday. We'd be good to go by Thursday. And it was 98 degrees in the kitchen. And I've worked a lot of uncomfortable places. My team shouldn't have to just because I used to. They shouldn't have to now. It was brutal. And it was so hot to the point that our cases were actually shutting down. The compressors were working so hard. The cases were, it just was a lose-lose. They were putting out more heat to try to stay cold.
Right.
It was so hot in here. We were blowing fuses. And that's the point where I said, hey, we really need this fixed. They said, don't worry, by Wednesday. And Wednesday, the HVAC guy comes and he's nice as anything. And we get the system and he turns it on. But they said they'd be done by 10. It's now 2:30. And he says, great, the electrician will be here tomorrow to hook it up. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, yeah, the electrician's scheduled tomorrow to get this all hooked up. Well, how would we have been open on Thursday if he wasn't scheduled to come out? And so at the end of that month, so that was August. So I took the sales data from all of we had to close that Thursday. It was still 98 degrees. And I took all of the sales data from all of the Thursdays that we had been open. I added them all up. I averaged them all out and I subtracted that from the rent for the next month. And that didn't go over well.
Well, I'm not trying to get you in trouble with your
You're
landlord
fine.
because they're still your landlord.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to make waves.
And so hopefully now we're just good and we're on track and we had good conversations and good business talks and hopefully we should be all set and in the clear.
But these are great examples of the things you don't know what you don't know until you get blindsided.
Exactly. And we were so slow. It was so hot. People didn't want to come in here. Right. And I don't blame them. It was uncomfortably hot to stand in our retail area. It was 96 degrees. And you're asking people to buy baked goods.
Right.
You're asking people to buy cinnamon buns and cakes and cupcakes, and it is hot. And summer is our slow time anyways. We have this awkward, slow period from I'd say probably Memorial Day until back to school is when things kind of slowed down, just the lull of the bakery, because the ice cream shops have all opened. People are going to the beach when the weather's nice. They're going out to get seafood when the weather's nice. People are away more. So we knew it would be slow, but I didn't anticipate how slow we'd be in the new spot.
Right. Have you explored retail or wholesale?
Retail, a little bit. So I used to private label for a bunch of bakeries. I don't do that anymore. Honestly, we're kind of at the capacity of volume. So it doesn't make sense to wholesale or to expand any retail accounts, but it's been on the back burner of how do we make that up during the slow season. So I've been trying to come up with ways for us to look into shipping or distributing our products, our name, just more available.
Got it. Do you think that do you think part of the reason why the slowdown is happening because maybe the recession is actually starting to happen?
Absolutely. And it's not lost on me that we're a luxury.
Right.
A bakery is a luxury. You don't need baked goods. I love that people put value in them, but it's absolutely not a necessity. So I don't blame people at all. But that's why we really try to keep the quality up and keep the keep the standards up because it's not lost on me when people do choose to spend their money here. So I like to make sure that like if you are only able to come in once a month, it's going to be perfect that once a month that you're able to come in.
I mean, I know that your prices are reasonable, but
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. But I know a lot of people think that it's expensive.
Yep. Yeah.
How are you combating that?
It just kind of is what it is. And not to say like, I'm never going to argue with someone because, you know, my budget is make coffee at home. Right. But every once in a while, maybe once a week, I go to Dunkin' Donuts. Maybe once a month, I go to Starbucks.
Right. That's
my budget. Everyone has their own budget and sees the value in things. So we try to have something for everybody. So our lowest priced item is a $2 item. So we have a $2 item, but we also do have $42
What is that item so I know
a cake pop.
Okay.
We do cake pop specials. So we have items at multiple price points because I understand that because I'm a person on a budget as well. I'm not doing this for fame or fortune. I have neither. So I definitely understand the need to have something for everybody, but I try to make it as welcoming as possible. Right. And if you can come in, that's wonderful. And if you can't, that's also okay.
Well, when I see your prices, I'm thinking to myself, she's definitely costing out all these menu items and she knows exactly what it's costing her.
Yeah. So a lot of how I run it too is like Costco chicken philosophy. Costco's not making money on a $5 chicken, but the $5 chicken got you into the door.
Right.
So like ironically enough, our macarons, which are like the number one seller, I make the least amount of money on macarons.
I had the raspberry and the Fluffernutter?
Yeah.
It was good. Yeah. Those are gluten-free.
Gluten-free.
Are they dairy-free?
The Fluffernutter was.
Okay.
Yeah, so sometimes we make them dairy-free just depending on the filling, but I make the least amount of profit on a macaron, but I sell 1,000 of them a week. So
and they come in and they see all the other goodies.
Exactly. So we have a lot of things that are priced to make them approachable and that you're able to come and get them kind of not necessarily. I don't think I have any loss leaders. There's nothing that we're losing money on because that would be silly.
Yeah.
So I don't have any loss leaders, but I do have some things that are very, very low profit margin because we're maybe making money on another item that you're coming in when you come in for that item.
So there's menu engineering going on as
Definitely,
well.
yeah.
So there's like you got your rock stars.
Yep.
That, like how do you approach the menu engineering beyond what you've already shared with us?
So there's some things like we do bring a couple things in. So we don't have a sheeter out back. So we bring in some breakfast pastry items. Those I sell them for as low as I can because one, I know I'm not making them. And two, I just want to have them available. It's what people want. I want it to be easy, grab and go with your coffee. And then there's some really intricate items that we're making that are involved. Like the macarons are a 3-day process. And it's a 3-day process of me making them. So if someone else was making them, they'd be even more expensive. But I try to, if it's an item that we're bringing in, try to offer that as low as possible. The items that we're making, well, maybe sometimes, or flavor wise, we change up the flavors of things pretty often. What's on sale? What can we get on a special? What can we buy in bulk? So I try to engineer the menu where I can, where it makes sense.
Well, I was curious about that. What percentage of your menu are like your all-stars that are like big performers that you keep on because they always push?
Yeah.
And what percentage of your menu is constantly changing?
I'd say it's probably like 80-20. 80 is things that we keep.
Okay.
So you can expect to always see the same sort of items. We will always have cupcakes. We will always have cake pops. We will always have macarons. No.
Okay.
So we always have the same item, but the flavors will change. And that's kind of where I can, we had bananas on sale here. There's a sale on a case of peanut butter. Let's do Fluffernutter, things like that. And then 20% is things that we either like made as a passion project or like last week our distributor sent us a case of chicken wings instead of chicken thighs. So we ran a Sunday chicken wing special at a bakery because why not?
Right.
So we made some really delicious sauces and we were like, hey, let's make chicken wings, I guess.
Well, in terms of culture, what does that do for culture having that 20%?
To change up? I think that's the stuff that like keeps things exciting for people. It also helps the kitchen not burn out.
Right.
So it helps the kitchen not burn out that, they see something on Instagram that they want to make and now they have the ability to make it. And if it goes over really well, cool, we'll keep it for a little bit. And if it doesn't, we did it, we tried it, and it's all good.
Got it. Do you think as time marches on, are you paying attention to data and sales per item and stuff, all that?
So I have really good data from Kingston. And then I'm treating this like a new business because it really is. So in Kingston, we didn't really do much savory at all. We had half the amount of case space that we did. Here, we're trying to expand into the need here, and the demand here is for prepared meals. People want more savory items. It's actually kind of shocking how much less pastry we sell here. And people really want savory items, savory pastry.
Well, I was going to bring that up. Like, when did you go from
my biggest
sweet
seller
and
is a
baking
chicken pot
to-
pie.
I had one the other day. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And my mom told me I needed to get it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely creating. I mean, it's a different pot pie from other ones I've had. It's more of like a shredded chicken.
Yep.
And it's very thick.
Yes.
Whereas like other thick, as in like it's generous.
Substantial. It's a substantial pie. They weigh 3 pounds.
You're not getting like the roux and like occasional bits and pieces of chicken. And,
it's stuffed.
It's stuffed. There's value there. It's delicious. It was delicious.
And I'm glad you said that, because that's one of the things that I know it's $36. I want you to find a value
That's
in
the
it.
large.
That's the large one.
The small was what?
$15.95 for the small one. So those ones serve 1 to 2. The large are 6 to 8.
I ate that whole small by myself.
1 to 2.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of people coming in and saying, "Oh my God, $36 for a chicken pot pie." And then they're back the next week and they say, "That was the best chicken pot pie."
Right.
So everything we do, even if it's something, I have to price them at $36, because we are sauteing onions and we're sauteing celery, and that's the secret. Cook everything first. And so we're developing that flavor. So that's why they have a great flavor. We're making the gravy. We're making the chicken stock. There's a lot of it's 2 days of labor to make 80 chicken pies a week. I have to price them at $36, but there's value in that. So even though, again, like, we're not making a ton of money off chicken pot pies, but they're going to be around forever, and they're good and they're consistent, and there's a value.
So what happened where you said we should try savory?
So it was August of 2023, and I think there was $400 in the business bank account, and I said, "Oh no, we have to do something."
Have you been in the negative yet? Has that happened?
No. Thankfully, knock on wood. So I've never been in the negative, but it was August. We had just had our main baker. So the person that was like my right hand had just quit, pretty unexpected, and not unexpectedly, but somewhat unexpectedly. And that was my first like really sad moment when someone left and moved on. And I couldn't keep up with the volume of custom cakes because my cake decorator has just left. So we lose that income coming into the bakery because I'm not booking more custom cakes.
And you never wanted to do it. That's not your thing. You lost your passion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was the first chilly day in August, and it was actually my dad that was like, "Why don't you make something like chicken pies?" And I was like, "I'm not making chicken pot pies. I'm not going to make a chicken pie at a bakery." And I made a chicken pot pie at the bakery, and they sold out.
Wow.
And then we made them, I think like 10.
Wow.
I bought like a Walmart size package of chicken, like a family size, I think, from Market Basket. And then we made them the next week and they sold out again. And then we made them the next week and they sold out again.
10 each time?
10 each time. And then people were asking for them and we were taking orders, but I only planned on making 10, but we had orders for 20. And I said, "Okay, let's take orders for them." And then we were getting orders for like 40 to 50 a week in our 600 square foot space that still needs to function as a bakery.
This is only 2 months ago. Where are you at now?
Oh, so this was in our old space. So this is a year ago.
Got it.
And now we're making 80 a week.
Wow.
It's crazy.
How many of those are pre-ordered?
Half of them. So I put so we make them every Monday. They're frozen. We used to do them. We used to make them fresh and give them to people fresh. And then we had some user error with baking. So now they're all
I heard
frozen.
about that when I was setting up.
Yes. So now we
remove the packaging when you put them in the oven.
There was a lot of user error. And it's chicken, and I just don't like messing around with that. So our filling has always been pre-cooked, but we used to offer them as like a unbaked pie crust, and you would bake them at home. People just didn't bake them long enough. So now they're all frozen. You get them baked from frozen. They make them on Mondays. We call it Guy Day Pie Day because our 2 guys make them. They're great. We do Guy Day Pie Day. They tell me how many pies they've made. I put half of those on the website for pre-order. Half of them are available in the store. And since we opened in June, we brought back pies July, the end of August, I think. That usually feels right.
What is it? Pies over guys? Is that the shirt that I saw earlier?
Pies before guys.
Pies before guys.
And we have not made it to a Sunday yet. So our week is Thursday through Sunday, and we haven't made it to a Sunday where we still had pies left in the store. They're really good.
I mean, it's really hard to find a good like wholesale like pie,
Yeah.
a retail pie.
And so my whole philosophy is like, we're going to make good food and we're going to do a good job.
Yeah.
It's good food first.
Yeah.
It's honestly, we usually make something and sell it before I even do the costing out on it. It's good food first, and then we figure it out.
Yeah. And your ability to stay adaptable and kind of try different things.
Yeah.
You'll every once in a while, you'll just hit a home run and you're like, all right, noted.
Exactly. So that's kind of like how I built the business, is I just throw things at the wall and see what sticks. Most of it has been done purely out of necessity, with a little thought behind it. But most of the things that have been like home runs for us have been like a last ditch effort in some way, shape, or form. That, you know, on the other side of things, you might not realize, like, we were about to close the doors and we made chicken pot pies, and now it's, you know, 10% of our business for the year.
That's crazy. Anything we haven't discussed up to this point where we are currently today? Like, that's, you think, a lesson worth sharing, you know, something that you would just wish you had known before getting into things, or, you know, things you learned the hard way?
Managing people is hard.
Okay.
I didn't expect for it to be that hard.
What's the struggle for you?
Trying to be the boss that I want to be. And
Who's the boss you want to be?
I don't know. Oh, that was a good one.
Stumped you.
You did. You stumped. I'm not usually at a loss for words. I think I have the picture of the leader that I want to be. I don't want to be a boss. I want to be a leader, but walking that line between making relationships with your team and building a team, but also having the authority when you need to, is really hard.
What do you think?
Yes, chef is really easy.
Right.
Yes, chef is really easy. That mentality is really easy when you've been from a yes chef kitchen. Yes.
Yeah.
Taking feedback and listening to feedback and developing a team and working with people. That's really hard.
So you personally taking feedback from your team?
No, I would say when I have to give feedback, I find that hard.
What's hard about that for you?
I don't want people to be mad at me.
Okay.
That's really...
Are you getting better?
Yeah,
How
I think so.
Better? Like, what are you doing that's making it easier?
I've started being more assertive first, which was really hard. So even like the team will laugh at me now that I'll be like, hey, do you think you could maybe make a batch of, you know, chocolate chip cookies? And they're like, yeah, you tell us what to do. I had a hard time just like giving, I don't want to say giving orders, but giving orders. I have a hard time, same way I run my social, I'm an over explainer. So I can't just say, hey, I need you to make 50 pounds of salted caramel right now. Hey, do you think in your day, could you? And at the beginning of the life of the bakery, when things wouldn't get done, then I would be like, oh, that thing didn't get done, but I didn't ask for it to get done in an assertive way. So balancing the line of like being approachable but also being authoritative is hard for me.
Okay, so you're getting better by just learning to be more direct and more authoritative in how you're
making statements.
Yeah, like not asking, telling this needs to happen.
It's so hard.
What I've found with people who struggle with this, I think oftentimes we correct the person, not the process.
Yeah.
And I think that as you evolve, as your business gets more cemented in time, as you figure out your identity and you find your regular routines and your pattern, you're in a new space.
Yeah.
So like you can't, I think sometimes people try too hard to have systems from day one. It's like, whatever you think is going to happen is going to be like, don't overcommit to systems, because you have to stay adaptable to actually build systems around reality. But once you start going and you get those systems in the par stocks and the things built in place, it becomes easier and easier to correct the process, not the person.
And that in between, I think that's what I'm struggling with, is that in between process of, I know where I'd like us to be, and my team is so great and so adaptable at working with me to get there. But I did a lot of, even with like our clientele as well, setting new boundaries for old relationships. So that's really hard.
Setting new boundaries.
How to set new boundaries for old relationships.
How do you do that?
It's really hard. And sometimes the answer is just saying no. No with a period. No is a complete sentence.
Right.
And that sometimes is really hard, because how do you tell the people that I used to deliver their birthday cakes to their front porch at 8 o'clock at night on my way home? How do you all of a sudden tell that person that now, 4 years later, we don't take custom cake orders in November because it's too hard for the holiday?
Right.
I just did that on Monday. It was really hard.
Right.
How do you tell the person that you've been making them their birthday cakes for their kid every year for 4 years? Now we don't do cakes in December. I'm sorry. It's really hard.
So these relationships are more with your customers than with your employees?
I would say with the customers, just because there's more of them, is harder. And then me trying to figure out the kind of leader and the kind of boss I want to be, setting those new boundaries now that we have systems, right? So once we've figured out something that works and once we have a system, how do you balance like now holding people accountable to that when it's been so kind of casual up until this point? How do you enforce that now where it's been, you've built that system together? So now how is that a hard set in stone rule on Monday, but on Friday we were still figuring it out? Yeah.
That is tough.
Super tough.
What is the primary thing driving your necessity to set boundaries?
I want to be around for a long time. I want this to be around I want this business to be able to provide for the community and to provide for my team for a while. I have a couple of people that joke and say they want to work here forever. And like, I want to uphold that. I want to run this business in a way that restaurants aren't usually run. I want to have people that are here for 20 years and, they're making $80,000 a year doing just a baking job because we've invested in that person. Kind of like the old days of like, you started a job, you got a pension, you got a 401k, you had that career for the rest of your life. I want to kind of flip the switch that, people are in a restaurant, in a kitchen for a year or two, and then they move on. I want to invest in the people to stay long term.
What does that look like? How do you hope to make that happen?
I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. That's the goal, and we just figure it out as we go. Yeah.
As the industry moves forward.
Yep.
And as we I think it's getting harder and harder to attract people to this industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's more competition for the people that would be working in this industry than ever before. As we go into the future, what do you think the industry collectively could be doing better to attract these people and to give these opportunities like you're talking about?
Yeah. So, I think just valuing the people that work for you and seeing value in people. Whereas before, I remember going for an interview at a place that I wanted to just be a server. And it was, well, do you have open availability? Oh, yep, I do. Okay, good. Because I have a stack of applications this thick if you don't. And just that feeling of people were replaceable, and they're not. People aren't replaceable, or they shouldn't be, if you want them to show up for you every day. And how do you expect people to show up for you if you're not showing up for them as well? So like, we have paid time off here. We have a tip pool here that my kitchen receives tips because I want them to feel as equally valued and appreciated as the front of the house team does. So like that's something I'm really proud of that we do. So our kitchen team is earning the same amount of tips as our retail team is. It's equal. Like we're setting that standard that everyone is equal and everyone is just as important, and that no one has more value than anyone else here.
Got it. What about your personal well-being?
What about it?
Well, I feel comfortable talking about this because you're pretty public.
Oh, absolutely.
So you kind of had a scary little situation a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So
to the point where I said, how about we reschedule this interview?
Yeah.
I think you have more important things to focus on right now.
I've always worked a lot. I've always been really tired. And those are just like two things that I've always been pretty used to. And the last couple of weeks, I was really run down, really tired, more so than usual. And I ended up going to the ER. Actually, a couple of the girls that work for me threatened that they were going to call out on Saturday if I didn't go get medical attention. So I went to the ER and found out that I just have a whole bunch of medical things going on. And that was terrifying because I'm here a lot. So it really made me think, because now like I have to take a little bit of a step back and I need to really prioritize my health a little bit more than I have been, because I've never seen it as an issue to work an overnight, in Kingston leading up to Thanksgiving, I worked 3 days in a row. I worked 3 days. I stayed up for 3 days. I didn't drive myself home at the end of it. I was basically hallucinating, and never saw that as a problem. And I think a lot of that is because I was kind of in like the old industry way of thinking that that's just what you did. And that's, you just worked. And so this, finding out that I have things that I need to take care of are kind of making me think I need to be home a little bit more. I need to relax a little bit. I need to give some responsibilities away. So yeah,
you need to create some boundaries
and boundaries for myself
yeah.
too. So like personal boundaries for me are very different than business boundaries as well. So like creating some personal boundaries and taking some time for myself. And that's already been hard. I mean, I left for a doctor's appointment last week on a Friday. And one of our regulars came in, and it's so funny because I'll post as I share, and I'll post, hey, I have some medical things going on. You know, I'm going to be in and out. If you need anything, please call the bakery, because people still call my cell phone. And I'll say, please call the bakery, let the team help you. And, you know, the response will be over, oh, take the time you need. Make sure you heal. We're all here for you. We're rooting for you. But then I'm not here, and someone comes in and says, oh, but when's she coming back? Are we going to have salads today? So like setting those boundaries, right, as well as like, when do I become human, right? Because I can't just be the human behind the business. Sometimes I need you to respect me as the human behind the business all the time.
So as you scale this business, and a lot of it hinges on you, your story every day, it's behind every great restaurant and a great business is a great person. I think the business is an extension of that. Do you see that it could be an issue where you're putting too much of the brand on your shoulders?
Yes, absolutely.
What's your plan to transition away from that?
No idea. No idea. And that's something that I haven't figured out yet. Because again, like new boundaries, old relationships, new boundaries, the old way I ran my business. I need to find a way to step back. And actually one of the things that made me really figure that out is, I've never shared my kids' names on the social media. I post pictures of them every once in a while, but I've never shared my kids' names. For some reason, that felt too personal. So I share their nicknames. We went to the movies a couple months ago, and someone said, oh, look, that's Squish. That's what I call my daughter online. And that was a really weird wake-up call, that this person that I didn't know, that I didn't recognize, that had never been in my store but followed us on social media, recognized my daughter and said hello to my daughter. And I was like, oh, we need to take this back a bit. I
think it's it's a weird thing, and like I don't want to offend anybody by saying this. Hopefully you don't feel like you're offending anybody, but where do we draw the line with that sort of stuff?
Exactly.
Do our kids want their lives to be told online? Like kids get really great likes and responses, and it's great for the algorithm. But like, where do we draw the line with personal life?
Exactly. And so much of my brand, I hate that word, but is being authentic. So how do I share how hard it is to run a business and be a mom and share my kids, but not share that and still keep some of that private and some of that, to myself? And then when do you set that boundary when it goes too far? Really strange.
Right. Do you think that is social media something that you want to do, or something you feel like you need to do?
A little bit of both. I really do enjoy sharing. And I do it makes me so happy when I share like my mess of a morning, and I have 5 messages from moms that are like, oh, me too. Yeah. It's nice. And like that solidarity is nice. And knowing that like, even because not everyone that follows us on social media is a customer per se. Not every follower is a sale, but knowing that there are people that still resonate with the content, I really enjoy that.
Got it. Can you believe it's been almost an hour and 40 minutes?
No.
It goes by fast, right?
That's crazy.
Can you imagine if I try to squeeze this into 40 minutes?
No. And I was like, I don't know if I can have enough things to talk about.
It goes by so fast. I never know what we're going to talk about. But I do want to ask, is there anything we haven't discussed up to this point? Something that you think you should bring to the conversation, something that's near and dear to your heart that you want to get out? I
think people just need to be more transparent about how hard it is. That you don't have to carry the burden of it. And like, especially like financials, staffing, the hard part, just share it.
Why do you think that's so important?
Because people show up for authenticity.
People meaning employees or staff?
A little bit of both. I found the more authentic we are, the more guests we get through the door, and also the better relationships I've been able to build with other businesses. That I don't get out much. I'm here a whole lot, so I don't have a lot of opportunity for network and relationship building and talking to other business owners. I'm never gonna go to, I shouldn't say never, but I don't right now have the time to go to a business owners meeting. Right, I don't have time to go to a meetup or a networking event. That's not me. That's not where I am right now in this journey. But if you put authenticity out there, the people will find you that also respect that. And that's been super helpful for me, because even sometimes like on a Friday that we're like, hey, everything is half off because it's been so slow, for someone else, another business owner, to be like, hey, us too. it's nice. And that, you know, is its own sense of like security and community in itself.
Well, I think it's interesting. My travels across the country, talking to different restaurateurs from different parts of the industry, whether that be corporate or franchise or pop-up or fine dining or fast casual, like whatever it is, you get all this perspective, and it's hard no matter what vertical you are in the industry. And when I talk about like what has to change, like why is it so hard, like why, I think it all ends up going back to the consumer and changing the values of the consumer to understand why the costs are going up, why are prices like if I think we need to educate the consumer on what it takes to actually run a business. And I think the restaurant industry is notorious for creating an illusion, an experience. Like, you're not supposed to see how fast the feet are moving under the water.
Yeah.
You're supposed to create this illusion of escape, of hospitality. And I think we've given so much hospitality. We've put ourselves into a corner.
Yeah.
Right. The only way to get out of that corner is by kind of drawing a line and saying we can't give anymore. And like, this industry, I think, like, as I'm sharing this, like, what's going through your mind?
I totally agree with all of it. And like so my thought was someone has to do it.
Right.
Someone has to be the first person that says the customer's not always right.
Right.
The customer's not always right. And they're not always wrong either, though. And maybe let's find some place in the middle, right? So the customer isn't always right, but here's the reality of what's happening on the other side of that. And let's meet somewhere in the middle to improve the hospitality industry, that, you know, you can have these great experiences and everyone is participating in that. And that's just kind of what I've tried to do. Like, hey, we you know what? If you didn't have the greatest experience today, I was really off. I was in the hospital until 2:00 in the morning, finding that middle. But what can I do to make it better for you tomorrow?
Right.
So kind of like owning up to that as well.
Well, I mean, I think I could make the argument too that like that experience for the customer is going to be better when they can come here and know that they're supporting you through your struggle and your challenge. That
Absolutely.
pie is going to taste better because they know that purchase, that $36, is going to a place where you're helping somebody in their family, in their business.
We're all people.
Survive.
And I think that helps so much is, you know, showing the people behind the business, not only me and my family, my kids, but my team, right? I don't take it lightly that I employ 8 people. 8 people rely on me every week for a paycheck to pay their bills. My dad works for me. We retired him from his job with benefits and a paycheck. And he had the faith in me to come and work here for me. That's not lost on me.
Yeah.
That's some big stuff. So to be authentic and to show up and share those insights helps the guests to know like who you're supporting when you choose to come here.
Yeah. Taryn, this has been a lot of fun.
Thanks so much.
I'm going to ask you a couple questions before we wrap it up. So what is something about your business, a value, a process, a system that's uncommon and makes you truly unstoppable?
Tipping everybody. Tip pool. Highly recommend it. Tip pool for the kitchen.
How do you overcome that legally?
So it's not hard at all. So my retail team, so we don't pay anyone tipped wage. I don't believe in tipped wage. So no one makes tipped wage. Everyone here starts at least double the minimum wage. So we'll start with that. Everyone is paid a very, very fair legal wage. So tips are in addition to. So again, because I love Square, any of our credit card tips that come in, those go through Square. Those are all counted for the whole week. And then I look at the number of payroll hours that all of my employees worked for the week. I'm excluded from that. So the number of payroll hours that all the employees worked, I take the total number of tips, divide it by the payroll hours, and that gives me a dollar amount per hour. Everyone that worked that week gets a proportionate share of that tip pool. So everyone earns the same extra amount of dollars per hour because they've all agreed, and we talk about it in the onboarding process. That is the team tips. Because the front doesn't have anything to sell without the bakers, and the bakers don't have any tips unless the front is selling it.
Right.
Then the retail team gets to keep their cash tips. So their cash tips are none of my business. Their cash tips are, we count them, we keep a record of them. It's up to them to report them.
Got it.
So they're still earning the traditional, any money that you put in the tip jar in the front, they're still earning that. They split that up amongst themselves at the end of the shift, but we do full team tip policy. So everyone is on the same level of earning,
Got it. So the mission statement is to change the world through inspiring, empowering, and transforming the industry. How have you personally transformed? Who's Taryn today versus the Taryn you were when you got started?
No ego. I got rid of my ego really, really fast. I realized that it's just a bakery. And if you look at it as just a bakery, we're just trying to bake and make people happy. Really, everything else just follows that. Nothing's too serious. There's no problem that we can't solve that's too big. It's just a bakery and caring for the people first.
Love it. This is the last question.
Okay.
It's a doozy.
Oh, man.
Get ready for it. If you got the news, you'd be leaving this world tomorrow.
Yeah.
You almost did. Really close.
It's pretty close. It's pretty close.
All the memories of you, your work, and your businesses would be lost with your departure, with the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom that you could leave behind for the good of humanity and your legacy. These are the 3 pieces of wisdom you're leaving behind for your kids.
Okay.
What would that wisdom be?
Still work hard, be nice to people.
1.
It's on the sign for a reason. Never burn a bridge.
2.
Tomorrow's a new day.
3. This has been a lot of fun, Taryn.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. We like to wrap up every chat by calling somebody out.
Yeah.
That's how I found you.
Love that.
And I really try to leave myself open to the universe. I'm sure you're following different people out there. Who comes to mind? Who's somebody who's doing it right, who's impressed you, who's taking care of their people, who's profitable, all these things.
Have you met the people of Red's Good Vibes yet?
Red's Good Vibes.
Red's Good Vibes.
Where's that
Oh, my
at?
gosh. So they're a food truck.
Okay.
Free meals.
What?
Free meals to anyone. Anyone, regardless of perceived need. They are a food truck. They mobilize. They go wherever they need to go, wherever they can see some community action.
Where are they based out of?
I don't know.
Seacoast?
I know them. Yes, I know them to pop up often in Dover. I'm honestly not 100% sure. But they also, on the other side of that, organize community fridges. So they also have started and kind of helped with this program to provide community fridges, again, regardless of need. So like neighbors helping neighbors. And their philosophy is take what you need, give what you can. So they have a fridge in Exeter, which is incredible. They also have one. They've helped make one in Kittery, I believe. And so not only do they have this food truck that does free hot meals wherever they're needed for anyone, but they've organized these community fridges that anyone can donate to, restaurants can donate to, people can donate to. Sometimes the community members, like let's say we donated once a 40-pound case of bananas. And so we alerted the group and we said, hey, there's 40 pounds of bananas in the fridge. Can someone make banana bread? And community members went into the fridge, baked for their other community members. It's amazing.
So is this a nonprofit?
I don't know their business structure. I don't know.
I can find out.
I just know they're real good people.
Who am I talking to over there?
Who's in charge of it? Oh gosh, I know her name. I just love them.
Red's Good Vibes. Look out. I'm coming after you.
So many times I talk to people through their business social medias that I'm like, what's your real name? Because I just know you as your handle and this little 2-inch picture of you. But Red's Good Vibes.
Queued up on my computer right now. Look out.
Incredible.
I'm coming after you guys. And how can we connect with you if we've really enjoyed today's conversation? Maybe we have questions about what you share with us, advice around Square.
Yeah.
If we're looking to leverage that.
Square can call me. They want to sponsor me.
Right.
That'd be great.
Hey, likewise.
Our Instagram, I'm usually pretty responsive. Calling the bakery. Coming into the bakery is even a bonus. Love to see people. So yeah.
And the handle is
Fresh AF Bakeshop.
You already said that and I missed it?
It's all good.
Okay.
It's all good.
We'll have that in the show notes. This is episode 1126.
No way.
Taryn, thank you so much. I literally cannot do what I do without people like you willing to get open, willing to get vulnerable. You make my work possible.
Thank you so much.
There is no questioning, my lady. You are unstoppable. Cheers.
Cheers.